Hello you, and welcome to another video of Construct 3 beginner course. So in previous videos we created our character and the platform behavior and movement for it, and also some animations, and also the platforms, basically the level for the game and the spikes. If the player touches them, the player dies and the level starts all over. And also we have a door in which if the player touches, the next level appears. So right now we're in our level 2, starting to create the very first enemy for our game. So what we of course need to start with is by creating the actual enemy. So let's right click on an empty space and press the insert new object, and let's find the sprite yet again. Double click that, press it on an empty space, and let's draw in an enemy. Okay, so how will our enemy look like? It's gonna be fierce, it's gonna be horrifying, it's gonna be something pink, that's for sure, yeah. So let's draw some kind of a monster. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm just drawing here. So there we have it, and we will have a mouth for it as well. It's a big mouth. Those monsters have big mouth, do they? Go. And it's gonna have teeth as well. Yeah. It's not gonna be like spiky looking teeth, that's just some cute baby teeth. There we go. Maybe one teeth at the bottom as well. And then we are gonna have the eyes as well, so a little darker color. Let's change the size. There we go. Looks like that. And we're gonna use a little more darker color as well. So the crazy part is it doesn't actually have any pupils and stuff like that. That's it. It's ready. Complete. So now we can use the crop transparent edges from the top yet again. And we can rename this animation, right-clicking it and rename, and let's call it a run, because our enemy won't idle at any point. It will just run all the time. So let's right-click on that frame right there and press duplicate. And we're gonna do the same trick as we did our players. We're just gonna make it like kind of a breathe all the time. So I'm gonna pick half of it, move it down a little, and duplicate that as well, and move it down a little, and duplicate that as well. Oh, sorry, did I duplicate the one wrong? What happened? Let's actually remove that and duplicate that, and yeah, we're gonna maybe make 5 frames and duplicate that. There we go. So that's enough. So we need to do the same setup as we did our player. So pick the run animation, and from the properties on the right corner, we have the speed. So let's put let's say 25 in there. And the animation needs to loop, and it needs to work like a ping pong. So what ping pong meant was that it's gonna play the animation to the end, and then scroll back to the beginning, and then go to the end and scroll back to the beginning. So it will look like it's looping all over the time like this. So now we can close this, and yet again it's gonna be huge monster, so we need to scale that. Let's pick the size, and let's say 25% and 25% for the X and the Y scale percent. And we can place it somewhere there. And then what happens is that we pick the monster and choose the behaviors and add new behavior. And actually what we're gonna do is add the platform behavior for this enemy as well. There are like hundreds of different ways to do this, but to ease up the ride and make stuff a little more understandable at first, we're gonna do it like this. So let's pick the platform and close it. And the most important thing what you need to remember to do is from the when you have the monster picked from the properties, the platform behavior, you need to uncheck the box default controls. Because if you don't, actually I'm gonna show you what happens if you don't. I'm gonna check that and go into the game. It's gonna have the same controls as the player has. So when I move, the monster moves. So we don't know how to do that. Let's close it and uncheck the default controls. Now we can go forward. Let's rename the monster. So pick that, and from the left, or yet again you can use the right click at the project hierarchy, but I prefer the renaming it here. So I'm just gonna call it enemy. Okay, so what we are gonna do, we're gonna actually, or I'm actually gonna introduce you to instance variables. So what is an instance variable? It's a property for a object. So any object here could have a instance variable. So for example, if we pick our enemy, and from the properties, there's a instance variable category. And there's no instance variables in place right now for that object, so we can add another one. So let's pick that instance variables. And here's the list of our instance variables for this given object. Of course, the list is empty right now. So let's add new instance variable. And we can give any type of a name. Of course, there's some kind of restrictions. We cannot give a same type of name for the instance variable as some of the codes, for example, already exist in the game. So it just need to be unique name, but anything you like. But I'm gonna call this instance variable a movement. And here's the type. So what type of an instance variable are we talking about? Is it a number? Or is it a boolean? Or is it a string? What boolean is, it basically has two options when you use the boolean. Boolean can be either true or false. So you can think of it as a kind of a switch that you can either put off or on. That's a boolean. Number can be anything, well, any number you like. String is text. So depending on what kind of instance variable you need or want, you need to pick the proper type for that. So for this case, because we are gonna use this instance variable to check in which direction the enemy needs to move. Is it moving left or is it moving right? We actually gonna use, let's do actually like this. Let's use the string. An initial value, we can give it, let's type in, let's say left. Okay, and we can give it a description if we like. We don't need it right now, but you could like make some kind of a documentation for yourself or a colleague, developer, or so forth. What is this instance variable and what is it used for example? But we're not going to use it right now. So the initial value is left. So what we're going to do within the coding part is that we're going to tell the character that depending on what this instance variable, this movement is, if it's left, the character is going to move the left. If it's right, it's going to move the right. That's what we're going to code in a moment, but we first need this instance variable to do that. So the name is movement, type is string, initial value is left, and press OK. And now we have it on the list, but we can actually close this. And let's jump to the game event sheet. So what we want to do now is add another event and choose the enemy and you can actually find a place called compare instance variable. So we're gonna compare, let's choose that, and it's actually gonna give you the movement variable which we just created, and it's gonna show it's a string, just to remind you that it needs to be text what you're gonna add here. And we're gonna compare if the movement is equal to, and we're gonna type a value of, you need to put this in these, what is this mark called, the shift 2. Not sure what it is in English, sorry about that, but the shift 2 and type in left and shift 2. So there you go. And this is case sensitive, so you cannot use bigger case letters, for example, or all are in lowercase in this example. So type in the left and press done. And we're actually gonna duplicate this, so by using the margin, using the left button on your mouse and pressing the margin, so not the event, using the whole margin, we're gonna press Ctrl C and Ctrl V. Now we have the another event, same type. What we are gonna change is the movement in here. So double click this event and let's change that value. So shift 2, right, and shift 2, and press enter. There we go. So now we have two events checking that if the movement, the instance variable movement, is left, something's gonna happen. And if the movement is right, something's gonna happen. So obviously we need to add a action that the character is moving left or right. So let's add action to the left, pick the enemy, and let's choose the platform behavior. We actually have a action called simulate control. So that basically means that we are gonna fake that the enemy is pressing some control on the keyboard. Obviously the enemy isn't because it's an AI, but we're gonna simulate that. So what we're gonna simulate, of course, we had the if the movement is left, so we wanna simulate the left button. Press done. And same goes here. So movement right, let's add an action, choose the enemy, and simulate control. But at this time the control is not left, it's right. It's done. So now if we press play, just remember to use the proper level, because for me it's only in level 2, the monster. If I press play, the monster is gonna walk left, but it's only gonna walk left because we are not changing the instance variable in any way. So we need to change that. Let's close it and go back to the event sheet and click add event and choose the enemy. And here we can find from the platform, there's a ease by wall. So if the character is by wall, and it's gonna ask which wall, on which side is the wall, basically. So what we're gonna do is, if the wall is on its left side, and press done, we are gonna add an action here, choose the enemy, and find the instance variable set value. So instance variable category and set value. And we are going to change the instance variable movement to, yet again, the shift 2. And we are going to change it to right, obviously. Because now when the enemy moves to left all the time, until there's a wall on the left side, it's gonna change the movement to right, meaning then it moves to right. So what we need here is same for the right wall. So I'm just gonna give you a couple of seconds to think for yourself. How can we do that? So how can we check if there's a wall on the right and change the movement, the instance variable movement left. Okay, so obviously we can use this event right here. We can use the margin yet again. Don't pick the event. Choose it from the margin from the very left of it. So it picks all the actions and events. And press Ctrl C and Ctrl V. And let's change that platform has wall to left. Let's change that to right. And obviously we need to change this set movement to left. So now we have it working, or it should. So let's try. The monster is now moving from left to right between those walls. And we need to dodge that by not touching it. But of course we don't actually have any kind of functionality right now that the monster actually kills us if it touches us. So we need to do that as well. But now the monster is moving between those walls. Of course, if I, for example, remove this wall right here, it will cause some problems because the monster just runs away and never comes back because there's no wall to change the direction. So in this design, we always need to have a wall which changes the direction of the monster. Just bear that in mind. So yeah, we still need to do that the monster actually kills the player. So we can yet again use this same event. Actually, let's use the spike. So yet again, from the margin, left click, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. And pressing the event, we can press the R button and replace the spike to enemy. So what will happen now if the player is on collision with the enemy, player is gonna get destroyed. We're gonna wait 1.5 seconds and then we're gonna restore the layout. And let's try that as well to make sure it works. So we are gonna say hello to our friend and we get destroyed. There we go, and the level restarts. So now we have another feature for our game, the extraordinary artificial intelligence monster. So that's epic. So yet again, now we can create another level. Let's say that we wanna right click the level 2 and duplicate. And now we have the level 3 and we can change the level in some way. Let's do it like, how should I do this? Make it even harder. Like this. Maybe remove that. Oh no, move it. But putting it right there and maybe a small obstacle right there and obstacle here and maybe some spikes right there and just move these a little. Whoa, let's not rotate those, let's add it there. So I'm not even sure if it's possible to be completed, but let's try. It's oh, sorry, I actually changed the level to that's my bad. So I'm just gonna press the Ctrl Z to go back. This I think was the level. So yet again, right click level 2. And that's actually pretty good that I showed you how you can make mistakes. So I actually made a duplicate of that level 3, but I never opened it. So I kept on editing till level 2. So always remember to check what level you're editing. So now I have the level 3 being edited. Okay, so what I can do now is create a lot of different kind of levels and using these features, and of course I can create more of these features to make it even more diverse within coming levels. But even with these features I can already have a pretty solid game. Thinking of it would look a little better, it could actually be a rather nice game. But that is, of course, making good graphics, and making good graphics takes some time. And of course, I can do different kind of videos of showing how to create 2D graphics for your games. But this is not it. So yeah, that's for the level creation and for the enemy artificial intelligence. So within the coming levels, coming videos, I'm gonna go through what we just did and give you some advices how should you continue your game development learning process. So thank you very much for joining this video and see you in the next one.